Splendid day. Hello, my name is Dr. Mutation, and I am an astrobiologist with countless hours of data collection expeditions. Some of these expeditions where I've only come back with just my data. Unfortunately, not all my crewmates have made it back from these data collecting expeditions, but fear not, as their sacrifices have helped us build an extensive database. Now, keep in mind, you're going to run into some non-lethal and extremely lethal entities. We're going to go over each enemy that we've seen so far and talk about the traits that they have shown us and that we've gathered data on thus far. This is subject to change as time goes on. As we know, things can get a little lethal out there. So first up, we're going to go over the, as far as we know, harmless entities. First up on our list is the quadrupus manta, or as you might know it, the Manticoil. We have a danger level of about 0%, and we mostly see it roaming around outside in the daytime. If you have a shovel on you, you can actually take this thing out in about one hit. So Manticoils are a passerine bird of the family Corvidae. Their bodies are quite large compared to their earlier descendants, and their wingspan ranges from about 55 to about 64 inches. Their most defining characteristic is their set of 4 wings. Their back wings are mostly used to stabilize when at a low speed, while their front 2 wings create a majority of the lift. Their round bodies are a striking yellow, but with black outlines or stripes along their primary rear feathers. You know, Manticoils mostly feed on small insects, but they can also feed on rodents. They're highly intelligent and social creatures, but they pose a little to like no threat to you and your crew. They are capable of transmitting rabies though, and Rubin chloria and pit virus, so don't eat them and try not to get bit. Next up on the list is the Anacridium vega, or as you might know it, the roaming locust. These have a danger level of absolutely 0, and they're immune to shock, so don't be using any shock weaponry on them. Also, if you have a shovel, do not even try to hit them. They will disappear faster than you could click your fingers together. Roaming locusts, this is actually a species of grasshopper, as you might have read about in books from Earth species. Unlike some species though that are more prone to jump or fly, these locusts actually just stay in the air. They're never grounded. We've never really seen them grounded. They stay close together in smaller numbers. They even stay closer together, and they quickly disperse when a predator tries to disrupt them, but they are highly attracted to light, so keep that in mind. No, they pose almost no threat to you or your crew, but sometimes people confuse them with Circut Bees, which we will get to later, but just, you know, remember what they look like, and you and your crew won't have any problem confusing them with Circut Bees. So now that we went over the mostly harmless creatures, let's move on to the more lower danger creatures that you might encounter on these moons. First up on our list of low danger enemies is the Linepithema crossus, or as you might come to know it, the Hoarding Bug. We have this down at a danger level of 0%. We found that it is territorial and it loves to loot. It mostly stays inside, and you can actually take this thing out with about 3 to 4 hits of a shovel. We found that out pretty early on. Hoarding bugs of the order Hymenoptera are large social insects. While often found living alone, they have been found to share their nest with members of their own species. They measure to a height of about 3 feet on average. They do have bulbous bodies and very thin blood and fluid throughout their bodies. The material of their carapace contributes to a very low weight, making them capable of flight, so keep that in mind. It also makes their bodies transparent. Try shining flashlights through them with your crew. That's a lot of fun. Hoarding bugs are given their name due to their territorial nature. Once they have chosen a place for their nest, they will seek to adorn it with any object they can find and protect these objects as a part of their nest. Hoarding bugs are not as dangerous when they're alone, but in large hives they can be pretty lethal. However, if left alone, hoarding bugs are surprisingly neutral and pose little to no danger to you and your crew. Hoarding bugs are mostly non-hostile, so if it's ever trying to chase you or attack you, it's probably because it wants some of the objects that you have on yourself. So go ahead and just drop them, and it'll take it back to its nest, and all will be well. You could even just take it out with about 3 to 4 hits with your shovel if you want, just to get them out of the way. But if you're coming up against a big group of them, I suggest you just take off and go back to the ship. Next up on our list of low danger enemies, we have Lacerta glomamorum, or as you might know it, the Spore LIzard. Has a danger level of about 5%. It is territorial and it dwells mostly inside. It is susceptible to shock damage, and you can take it out with a shovel in about 3 to 4 hits. Colloquially named puffers or spore lizards, Lacerta glomomorum of the family Alligatoridae is one of the largest and heaviest reptiles. Despite their large mouths, they are herbivores and do not have a strong bite. The bulbs on their tails are believed to secrete a chemical which attracts and accelerates the growth of a fungus species, Lycoperdon prelatum, which it then shakes to release spores as a defense mechanism, a unique example of a mutualistic symbiotic relationship. Spore lizards have a very timid temperament, tending to avoid all confrontation if possible. If their attempts at threat display are not effective, they may attempt to attack, so it's not recommended to corner or chase one. There are historical records that spore lizards were at least partially domesticated hundreds of years ago. However, this effort was set aside by an initiative to harvest their tails for medicinal properties, which is kind of unfortunate. You and your crewmates' first time seeing a spore lizard might shock you, but don't be afraid. They are more than likely to leave you alone. Just don't corner them, or they might release a fume out of their bellies that's going to impair your vision for some time. Their bites also do little to no damage to you, so just please be careful when you're around them. They are rather cute, you know? I'd keep one as a pet if I could. Next up on the list is the Hygrodere. It chases you, it's only inside most of the time, it's immune to shock. You can't really hit it with your shovel, and the danger level is like 0%. You really just have to run away from it. The Hygrodere is a eukaryotic organism classified within the paraphyletic group Protista. With incredible speed of reproduction, these small organisms can multiply to millions. Hygrodere rarely split apart, instead choosing to form a large, viscous mass, which can take up large amounts of space and become a danger to deal with, requiring large tools or lures to relocate. They're drawn to heat and oxygen and can detect it from seemingly anywhere. There's almost nothing organic they can't convert to their own body mass. Nothing has been found to poison them. Constantly replacing themselves, they can persist for hundreds or even thousands of years. If you ever find yourself cornered, climb onto a railing and maybe jump over it to get away. Oh, quick note. I had a crewmate once bring his boombox to listen to some music. Apparently these things like to dance, so bring along a boombox and maybe have a little party with them. Alright, now we're getting to the fun stuff. I mean, the dangerous stuff. Next up is our medium danger creatures. First up, we have Mutinum faistula, or as you might know it, the bunker spider. They are territorial and they do feel vibrations, so they will search for you and your crewmates. They are susceptible to shock damage. They dwell mostly inside. They are concussable, and you could take them out with about 4 to 6 hits of a shovel. Bunker spiders of the genus Theraphosa are the largest arachnid found in the Thistle Nebula, and the second largest ever discovered. It's believed they evolved to prey on large mammals over the course of a measly several hundred years after the boat made its trip around the Thistle Nebula. Bunker spiders produce silk and lay it around their chosen nesting area. They wait for it to be tripped on. They can be seen waiting on walls, often over doorways where prey could enter unaware. If you find a bunker spider unprepared, it may freeze as a defense mechanism. In this case, they are best left alone. If a bunker spider reacts aggressively, it is best not to fight with ordinary tools. They use their webs to make up for their rather slow movement, so take note of your surroundings. Their webs can be broken easily with any blunt tool though. Bunker spiders pose a real great danger to humans and other urban explorers, especially without a great benefit to their ecosystem. As a result, a kill-on-sight order has been informally agreed upon between many states home to the bunker spider, and it is currently approved by the ITDA as of October 6, 2497. Once a bunker spider detects the vibration of one of its webs in its nesting area, it's going to start looking around for whoever disturbed it. So be careful when you're out there grabbing scrap with your crew. You can take it out with your shovel like we said, and if you do see vents that are open, it could indicate that there's a bunker spider around. But don't get it confused with the Snare Flea, because both of those things can open the vents. Next up on our list is Dolus scolopendra, or as you may know it as, the Snare Flea. It has a danger level of about 30%. It does roam around and trap its prey. It's mostly seen on the inside of buildings. You can take it out with about 1 to 3 hits of your shovel, and it is susceptible to shock damage. A very large arthropod of the class Chilopoda. Its body produces a silk, which it primarily uses to propel itself to places where it is concealed. Its exoskeleton is somewhat fragile, and they can die from long falls. The Snare Flea does not produce venom, nor does it have a strong bite. It makes up for this weakness with its ability to tighten itself around large prey and suffocate them. The Snare It thrives in the dark and warm areas. It cannot survive low temperatures and generally avoids open air and sunlight, so take them outside if you're ever close to an exit. If you're walking around and you see vents opened, try using your echo scanner on the ceiling to check if there's snare fleas nearby. You don't want one dropping down on your head and suffocating you to death. If you do have a shovel on you and your friend gets stuck with a snare flea on them, you can smack them in the head with the shovel, and that will pretty much take care of them. You can also use the shovel on yourself and take the snare flea off. And if you're close to a nearby exit, you could leave through the exit and the snare flea will most likely die. Next up on our list is Crabrocaruscus, the Circuit Bee. It has a danger level of 90%, it's territorial, and it roams around, and it can only be found outside in the daytime. It's immune to shock, and you can't even hit it with your shovel. The Circuit Bee, also known as the Red Bee, is a eusocial flying insect of the genus Apis, a descendant of the honeybee. Their appearance is quite recognizable from their hairy red bodies and 2 sets of wings. Like their ancestors, they are well known for their intelligent social behavior, large colony size, building of wax nests which they use to store honey, and their important role in pollination. Unlike the honeybee though, which often choose high places such as trees to construct their hives, red bees create their hives on the ground. Red bees are highly defensive. They will leave the nest to attack any creature that comes within several meters, leaving behind only the queen and drone bees. This bold behavior is enabled by their most defining ability, which is their electrostatic charge. Red bees produce friction with the air. They also produce friction by rubbing their 2 pairs of wings against each other and by rubbing against one another while in the hive. What allows them to create such a surplus of electric field compared to the honeybee is still under research, as they generate a stronger electric field when panicked or angered. This ability is especially useful for them around water. It's best to keep your distance if a red bee hive is stolen. Red bee swarms will enter an onslaught in which they attack any living creature. This destructive behavior will last until they have located the hive or completely exhausted themselves, which can take hours to days. They have been known to leave behind fields of bodies of small rodents, insects, and even some larger mammals, and in rare cases they can start fires. Their strong benefits and drawbacks to their ecosystem are highly debated. Before you leave, send a friend out there to distract the bees, grab the hive, and if your friend makes it back, leave as soon as you can. Next on our list, we have Popio vulturus, or the Baboon Hawk. This has a danger level of 75%, and they're outside mostly in the daytime, so be careful. Baboon hawks are a primate of the family Cercopathecidae. They are hunchback, but they can stand up to 8 feet tall on average. Their heads are bony with bird-like beaks and long horns, which they use like skewers to gore and feed on their prey. Their horns are made of keratin instead of bone like the rest of their skulls, and they do not contain nerves or blood vessels. As a result, baboon hawks can often break their horns from the force they apply, then regrow them within the same season. Baboon hawks partly owe their name to their large wings, which could never carry their large body mass and are used instead for intimidation and protection from the elements. The largest baboon hawk troop ever observed was made up of 18 baboon hawks. They are loosely territorial, and much of their behavior is motivated by intimidation and display. They can become collectors, using any flashy or colorful object to mark their territory. As lone scouts, baboon hawks are generally timid and won't attack unless provoked. In greater numbers, they can become a great danger. Sticking close to others and making yourself seem dangerous is the best way to prevent an attack. They prefer smaller mammals, but when desperate, they are known to use their numbers to attack animals twice their size, such as eyeless dogs. Next up is Hemiptela gigantis, or the Earth Leviathan. It has a danger rating of like 2%, but this thing is massive and it only comes out at night during an eclipse on the outside of buildings. You can't really hit this thing with a shovel, and don't even try using a shock or a stun grenade on it. The reverently named Earth Leviathan of the family Piscicolidae is one of the largest invertebrates found around the Thistle Nebula. None have been captured, so not much is known about their biology. Earth Leviathans seem to behave as predators. It's speculated that they can burrow as far as 40 meters underground, judging by the incredible excavations they leave behind. They can detect even the slightest vibrations, and for this reason, it's not recommended to stay still if they're nearby. Instead, if you hear them burrowing, retrace your steps as fast as you possibly can. Oh, I got some helpful tips. If you're looking at the ship's radar, the Earth Leviathan appears as the biggest red dot you've probably ever seen. Also, if you listen close enough, you can hear the growl right before it jumps out of the earth and starts eating up all your friends. So keep in mind that when next time you're facing an Earth Leviathan. Next up is the extremely high danger enemies. You want to keep this information close at hand, because you never know when you're going to see these things. Here we have Rapax folium, or as you might know it, the Bracken. This is an 80% danger level creature. Don't mess with it. It stalks you, It's inside buildings. It takes 5 to 6 hits from the shovel to actually even bring this thing down. But you know what? It's susceptible to shock. So if you have a shock grenade on you, use it to save your friends. There's a lot of debate to which genus the Bracken belongs to. It is a bipedal vertebrate with skin the color and texture of a red beet. The name is coined for what appears to be leaves protruding from its upper spine. The purpose of these is believed to be for intimidation. However, not much is known about the specifics of Bracken behavior due to its elusiveness and low population. We know very little from accounts of wildlife experts such as myself who have encountered the Bracken. It is a lone hunter with high intelligence. Its behaviors can seem aloof at times. It exhibits high aggression even when unprovoked, yet quickly backs off when confronted. However, Brackens are known to up their hostility when cornered or simply watched for too long of a time. It's theorized that upon death, their bodies undergo a rapid decomposition process, which is unique from other large animals. Some things we noticed that if you stare at it really suddenly, you can actually scare the Bracken. If you stare at it too long though, it'll attack you after a few seconds. It will literally chase you and try to take you out. Next on the list is Satyrid procuratus, or the Forest Keeper. These are very large creatures. They're roaming and they do sprint. They're outside mostly at night or during an eclipse. They're not equipped to shock damage. They're concussable, and you can't really go up to them and smack them with your shovel. Forest Keepers are believed to share a common ancestor with Rapax folium. These behemoths are called Forest Keepers for the biomes they often inhabit. Their bodies bear markings on the front and the back which mimic eyes. This trait is more helpful in their youth, as they are not agile. Their skin is unique, and it's a dense material which hardens further throughout their lives. The large spikes and bumps across their bodies form as a result of aging. It's been said that Forest Keepers exhibit a curious behavior similar to that of a human child, the age maybe 5 or 6. They will eat anything they find fascinating. Forest Keepers don't actually need to put anything in their mouths. It's theorized that the main source of energy is similar to a process like photosynthesis. Still, it makes them relatively dangerous to observe. They can see across long distances, so stay low and make use of cover. They cannot enter small spaces, so when you're in the ship or under an overhang, you're generally safe. Here's a little tip. Maybe you should carry a stun grenade just in case, Maybe you're getting chased through the forest and you don't really want to get eaten. Maybe drop the stun grenade as you're running. Next up is Leokaikus, or the Eyeless Dog. It has a danger level of 70%. It roams around, it charges at you. It's outside mostly at night or during the eclipse. It takes 10 to 12 hits from a shovel to take this thing out. But it is both susceptible to shock and concussions. Eyeless dogs are a large mammal of the class Septibus. They are social, hunting in very large packs. They have also been called breathing lions for their recognizable sound and large mouths. They are endurance hunters and attempt to make up for their lack of sight with their sense of hearing. It's a popular myth that they often mistake the sounds of their own kind for prey, entering fights within their own packs. Eyeless dogs' behavior is unique from other pack animals in their tendency to spread out to cover a far distance. When an eyeless dog has found prey, it roars to alert others in the near vicinity, who also sound the alarm, sometimes resulting in a kind of chain reaction. Eyeless dogs can be dangerous in swarms, however, they are characteristically clumsy, taking guesses at their prey's exact location, which is often incorrect. Some things to note is the eyeless dog is incredibly good at hearing, so use that to your advantage. It cannot see, so if you're crouching, you're making less noise. But if you're talking with crewmates, turning on and off your walkie-talkie, even calling down the dropship for items, those all make noises and can alert the dog to that area. Use that to your advantage. Next up is Vir Caligaris, or Coil-Heads. Their danger level is about 80%, and they stalk you. It's mostly found inside. It is immune to shock, but you can stun this thing. And you can't actually use your shovel against it either, unfortunately. Vir Caligaris, or colloquially named Coil-Heads, have not been studied extensively due to their extreme unpredictability and dangerous properties. They have been known to combust into flames when being dissected or even deactivated, and they can carry dangerously high levels of radioactive particles. Due to this and other reasons, it has been highly speculated that they were created as a biological weapon for war, although this has not been proven. If you encounter one of these things with a friend, take turns staring at it as you both creep towards an exit or a door. Do not look away. Next up is Insanus Thingus, or the Jester. It roams around on the inside. It has a 90% danger rate. There's literally no data on this. If you see it, leave. Do not do not mess with it. You will die. There's really only two things that the Jester does. Plays music and it kills people. So really, you got 20 or so seconds before it inevitably pops open and it pursues you until you have died. So the best thing you can do is get out while you still can, grab your items and your crewmates, and take off to another moon. Next on our list is Pistra Sciavis, or the Thumper. This has a 90% danger rate. It roams around and charges at you. It's mostly only inside, and it's susceptible to shock damage, which is nice. And you can kind of take this thing out, you know, if you have a shovel, with 4 to 6 hits if you're brave enough. Halves or Thumpers are a highly aggressive carnivorous species of the order Chondrichthyes. Their skeletons are cartilaginous, giving their bodies a stretchy and rubbery quality. Their name comes from the fact that they must eat their bottom legs in order to escape the shell of their hatched egg. Their bottom legs are hardly functional to begin with. Their arms or front legs are very strong, and they occasionally use them to stomp prey. They can reach great speeds in a straight line. They are relentless hunters, typically at the top of their food chain. Their main weaknesses are their intelligence and complete lack of hearing. If you come across a Thumper, your best means of survival are leaving its line of sight, as it is slower around corners and can't easily track prey. Due to the fast and volatile evolution of this species, some theorize that Thumpers are one of the examples of an increased number of mutations causing higher levels of speciation in planets around the Thistle Nebula. Next is the Ghost Girl. Now, I'm no parapsychologist, but I do have to take these reports seriously. There has been hauntings and chasings. Apparently, they can be seen in a red dress with white polka dots, and they usually only chase after one crewmate at a time, so keep that in mind and stay safe. If you see lights and the terminal flickering, or if you hear giggling or heavy breathing, or if your hearing becomes muffled, maybe make your way back to the ship or let another crewmate know, and just be safe. We should probably talk about Jeb too. Now, Jeb is inside the company's store where you go to sell your items. Easily angered but very passive. The rules state that you should not provoke Jeb. Do not ring the bell a lot. Do not stand too close. If you anger Jeb, Jeb will grab you and Jeb will kill you. So as you're selling scrap, remind your crewmates not to anger Jeb and maybe to back away after clicking the bell a few times. And with that, you should now be up to speed with all of the data on all of the creatures that we've encountered on numerous data collecting expeditions. Hopefully this helps you and your crew have a better chance at surviving when you're out there grabbing scrap.